I'm here today with Robin Mackie, um, an older identity of the Onga Central Hawke's Bay district, and we're here this afternoon to do a little doco on the water race that was established in 1905 on the Tupi River. Thanks, Robin, for giving us your time this afternoon, and you're the man behind the cairns here, establishing this. Tell me, Robin, why do you think they needed to establish a water head in the Tupi to?
Yeah, well, going back, Dennis, to the early 1900s, when all these farms here, there were 28 farms that were surveyed, all after Forest Gate Station was taken over by the setting government. And this area, or the eastern area of the farms, were very short of water. Western side of Forest Gate was okay because it had the older creek running through it and a few other little things, but nothing here. So they formed a committee and went to the farmers, the 13 of them formed a committee and went to council and asked if they could borrow £1,000 in those days to investigate and start the water. And I don't know who surveyed the whole lot. I could not find that out in my research. And but whoever did it did a marvellous job. And they didn't have the tools in those days that we have today. And the tunnel through the Parker Cliff where the water was taken from the river, there had to be dug by hand. And the only way they could find the levels was they would let some water in at night and then measure the levels of the water so they knew whether they had to dig deeper or go a bit shallow. That was the only way they had of finding out their levels. But they came out with 100 yards or so many 100 metres long. And you could stand up in it. Yeah. And it was just ingenious.
So, Robin, can you tell me who was contacted to do that?
Yes, by the name of Butler.
Yep, I thought it was a Butler.
Yeah. And I couldn't find out when I was researching who actually did the tunnel work. I found out it was Mr. Butler. However, he got the contract.
So his contract was to form the water races themselves?
Yeah. It was done by Thomas Butler, Waipawa, yes. 858 pounds.
858 pounds.
Yeah. $1,600. And that was to do the tunnel and also do all the form all the races.
Which measured, what was the final distance?
32 miles.
32 miles.
Yeah. Of races.
Okay.
Because there were branch races taken off.
Yes.
And it took several years to do it, but in those, there was a real big flood, probably equal to Gabriel, I would imagine. Took out 100 metres of the race by the tunnel, and I think it threatened to take the tunnel entrance and intake off as well. And but they had all these drawbacks, and in the end, Tom Butler handed it in, occasion, I can't carry on.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm not quite sure who finished it off, but it cost a bit more than the £800 to do it. And it was finished and commissioned, I think, about 1907, I think.
Okay.
1908.
So the race head, there'd be a lot of concrete.
Yes,
Used
used a
as
lot,
well.
yes. But their biggest problem was they had no base to put the intake head on,
Okay.
and it needed to be built so that it had a gate on it.
Yes.
It could be raised up and down.
Yes.
I think in that very early stage they lost one intake and they put another one on, this time with the gate on it.
Mm-hmm.
That was also taken out by a flood at some stage, and that was basically the continuing problem that we had, that the cost of putting intakes on all the time was becoming astronomical, and that was basically when the last one got off, which was the demise of the water race, because it was costing too much to put another intake on with the threat, and nothing. They had no. It was just metal, and nothing to bind anything to.
No.
We drove pegs into it, 3-inch steel pegs. There's photos in the book of that, and but the intake face kept on getting eroded away as well.
Yeah, okay.
Because they got into a hopeless position, and that was basically the main reason for closing it down.
But it had lasted almost 100 years.
Almost 100 years, yeah. 2001 it was closed, and in 2000 they also closed Lindsay, Argyle and the Ascot water race.
Okay.
But a lot of the reasons too was that there was a changing method of farming. I think the regional council. Those days, that was the later period, rather deemed as a money monument. And that was built and demised, and in the end it was closed, and everybody had to put in bores and supply their own water.
Okay. For all those years, it had really set farms up, hadn't it?
It had, yeah. I mean, it was a great method of
Yes.
during the process, I think in the 80s, looked at again as perhaps a method of irrigation, and you looked at digging a irrigation channel from the tunnel up there right down through the middle, and allowing farmers to irrigate from it. That was going to cost about $200,000.
Okay.
And but after research was done, it was deemed that we could not extract enough water through the tunnel to make it efficient.
Yeah. And I can imagine there would have been probably created a few squabbles.
It would have done, yeah. It would have done. There were enough squabbles as it was. Yeah. Some of the farmers would have water, others wouldn't. I can remember as a relatively young fellow, we had a big iron log with a blade on the front of it, and we had to drag it from the top there right down through the main water race.
Yeah, okay.
We didn't worry about the branch races, just to clear a channel for the water to flow, because we couldn't get We couldn't get anybody to clean the water race. And all that. And this was on Boxing Day, just before Christmas.
Yes. What year roughly?
Back in about, I think it was the 80s.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
And people were running
that
out
would
of
have
water.
been the early. That would have been 70s. More like 70s. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So through those years, you would have had to have maintenance,
Yes.
like committees.
Yes, we had. It was run by the committee during the war years. Things got a bit tough, and of course, Duncan Holden he had to go into the. He was taken for the war effort. My dad taken wasn't wanting to train being a home guard. He was too old to be overseas, and a few of the settlers sold, and we ran out of personnel fairly soon, and things got a bit worse, and then the council. It was decided then, well, maybe we should hand the whole thing over to council and let them run it.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened. And they had the gear to do the work, the cleaning, all the cleaning, everything that was done by hand. But yeah.
So that would have added to your rates, obviously.
Yes, the rates
sort of
were increasing year by year.
But like everything through the war years, things just came to a standstill, and
They did.
maintenance on a lot of stuff just fell by the way.
It did, yes.
So you were probably involved with the water race from when?
Well, basically, when I was a kid,
Yes.
I can remember the tunnel used to silt up quite badly at times.
Yes.
So we couldn't get enough water into it. So the idea was that we dig it out. Had to be dug by hand.
Oh, okay.
And they were buckets and put into, well, they were all milk buckets in those days. And Dad and another chap would fill the buckets up, and myself and my brothers would walk them out and dump them on the outside. Well, that took several days, and hell, it was hard work.
I'll bet it was hard.
And then after that, council rigged up a method where they could, using a bucket on ropes, and they could pull it, they anchored it on the entrance end, and then dragged it through by hand basically, and got it out that way.
Yeah.
And that worked quite well.
So that would be mainly after floods, or
Basically, when the water was dirty.
Robin, once the water races were established, a ram pump was established. Were there many of those established in the water races?
No, there was only the one. The one that I knew about, and there was no other situation that required it, and that was on Hamish Rose's father's farm, and it was used in the race, put in the race, and just the volume or the water going past it made it operate.
Yes.
And it lifted the water about, I suppose, 3-4 metres up onto a terrace, and then it was
Gravity.
dropped into a tank from memory, and then it was troughed from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were quite an ingenious device.
They were really the way they worked,
Mm.
and no maintenance. Just put it in the stream bed. It was set in concrete. This one, set on concrete block, but it worked for years and years.
Yeah. I remember seeing others, around the area in the Tikakino area on Julius May's
Oh yes,
property.
yes.
operating
Yeah.
there, and the Clow Valley Farm, not out of a water race, but just an on-farm.
But when everything was flowing nicely, you're dead right, the water was. So on the odd occasion, when it got hot, cattle would get in it and stir it up.
Yes.
And it got a bit like pea soup for the guys down further, but it didn't take long to clear. And fluke worm was a bit of a problem. And but to fix that, we would just put in a 10-kilo bag of copper, just put it in the race and let it dissolve, and that would take the fluke out all the way down. Yeah.
The fluke worm was known for attacking the liver.
Yeah.
It was found in the liver of the animal, and once it was in there, it just the animal faded away.
Animal,
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
that did help a lot.
yeah.
Weeds were another major problem, and we did have council went into it in a fairly big way, and we got some liquid spray that could be, they've been granules, I'm not sure, but they were put in the water, and as the water dissolved them, they would kill the weeds on the way down. That worked reasonably well, and then Roundup came out.
Yeah.
So
all that lovely watercress.
all the watercress disappeared, and the Roundup, so there used to be a regular spraying of the race.
Okay. Because it did.
It did work, but it always needed to be cleaned out. And my brother started cleaning here. Dad had bought a digger, a grater blade, but it had a hydraulic sort of a scoop on it. And my brother saw a bit of an opportunity, so he approached the accountant and said, I'll clean the races for 10 shillings a chain. And they said, okay. So he got the job of cleaning the races all the way down. Did a good job, but tended to deepen them a bit.
Yep.
And so then when council then did some more research, and they got what they call a chain digger, which was a chain mounted on the side of a caterpillar, not Caterpillar D2.
Yeah.
But it was quite difficult because it was so wide, sticking out the side of the track to get through gateways. But if you did it right, you got through. But a lot of the times they would drop a track trying to screw the old D2 around. Yeah. But that was later transferred onto a TD6 National, and that worked quite well. And then the motorised diggers, the long arm one came out.
Yeah.
There was one that had wheels, and so that was council owned that one. And then that was used up until the end of the race, basically.
Okay.
It was used for the clean, very fast, very efficient. Did tend to deepen the race.
Upset the levels.
But we put a lot of metal back into some places where that what became a problem.
Yeah.
Backload of metal in. But there was always something, that had to be done. The maintenance on there was quite horrific.
Yeah, I didn't realise that, but I do notice reading through the books that there was a committee formed sort of year after year. People came and went.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, I took over from my father, and I was on it for 40 odd years, and I was chairman for I don't know how long, but you spend a lot of time, and I used to have to hop on my motorbike and I used to ride the entire races and assess them, then report back to council. So needs cleaning, that one can be left, and all that.
Okay.
Try and help cut the amount of rates that we were paid. But
So-
no, it was very sad the day that it closed. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so the decision was made to close the water race in 2001.
Yeah.
Yep. You decided that we needed to have some history on the water race,
Well,
and
yes, I did.
thankfully
Yes,
you did. I mean,
yes.
it was,
I looked around and I thought, well, unless we, once the farmers sort of filled the races in, you didn't know there would ever be anything there. So I decided that we really needed some record, because these guys did a marvellous job in planning it out and doing all that early work. So I researched it. It was quite a job. I researched the council minutes from 1898 through to 2004, and some of the minute books were that thick, and some of them were already they've been gone through and already noted.
oh yes,
And other ones hadn't been.
yeah.
So I had to check every page. All I did was just look for forest gate.
Yes.
That's all. But after I wrote the history of this, you get a lot of requests from museums and universities.
Yes.
And one of them wound up at Forest Gate in England.
Oh, yes.
Look, that's where Forest Gate
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
came from.
Yes.
And they actually wound up all over the place.
Oh, there's a real importance to have this history
Yeah.
recorded.
Well, I thought it was, and when I'd finished it, and when the water race was closed, there was some money left over there. So the council spent $5,000 on sealing the intake of the water race off.
Yep.
And I think there was about $1,500 left. And I was chairman of the Forest Gate Domain at that time, and the council wanted to wrap the whole thing up.
Yep.
Yeah, get rid of the money. So I suggested that we build a cairn, and they deposit the remaining rates money with the Forest Gate Domain committee, and we go from there. I had to get permission from all the ratepayers
Of the water rate.
of the current ratepayers of the water
Oh,
rate,
did you?
to say, well, do you want your money back, or would you like to see a cairn of some sort done? And they agreed with that. So it cost quite a lot more than $1,500, and the Forest Gate Domain, because it was a domain, we actually got free water. So we thought, well, we would pay a bit back,
Yes.
and we put in the other $1,000 odd to build the cairn. Yeah, it cost $2,500.
And it was built by an original local.
Yes,
Max
original
Elvis?
local, Max Elmer.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
I contacted Max, and he was sort of semi-retired at that stage,
Yes.
but he agreed, and he did it at a much cheaper rate,
Yes,
I'm sure. And so I sourced all the boulders from the Tuki,
Okay.
and I said to to Maxwell, there used to be a tunnel. He said, well, we can put a tunnel in.
Yeah.
So that opening there is the tunnel. Yeah, and he did a marvellous job at putting all those.
Yeah.
It is a real art, the way he
To put these things together.
he poured the concrete base,
Yes.
and no, it was really good.
So now the head of the race is overgrown, is inaccessible.
It is
virtually?
inaccessible
Yes.
now, and I do believe the seal that the council put on now gone. That's been washed out, which sort of reinforced the problem we were having with the intakes.
Yes.
And it's taken all that away.
Yeah.
Yes, there is, unless someone's prepared to walk now, it's probably a mile up. Well,
Yeah, no, it would be a
kilometre and a half.
Yeah.
Up the
Up
stream,
from the-
and then you've got to cross over the river
Yes.
and then look back to the east to see it. But so it really was, the whole thing was a work of art, and I thought it deserved to be recorded.
Yeah. And so here we are, sitting here today at the Onga Domain, beside the Cairns, in commemoration of 96 years of water supplied by the Forest Gate Water Race. And the foresight of those guys then to do what they did. And here today, we still haven't got a decent water source in the Ruahine Ranges.
No, you're dead right, Dennis. Yes, it's water, as they say, is gold now.
Yes.
And I was a real advocate for the Rutanipa Dam. And as I said before, many years ago when the then catchment board were doing a few things that we didn't agree with, I was a member of a advisory committee, and we would meet once or twice a year and discuss things that were going on in the district.
Yes.
And I said to those guys, I said, you've got to think about storing water up in the mountains somewhere. I said, surely there's somewhere up there. And the chairman, Doug Walker, said, oh yes, that's a good idea. And that's as far as it went.
We haven't seen anything.
And we haven't seen anything since, and we're still, lacking water, even though every farmer needed to put a bore down. We've got some farmers irrigating at the moment for crops and dairying, and they're sucking from deep down. They're probably down 300 metres.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a photo of a set of cattle yards in California, and California in America is the most irrigated province there is in America, and because they are continually taking the water out below, the ground is sinking, and the loading rate was probably 2 metres above the truck.
Yes.
When it came in to load out, and that's because, and I don't think that's going to happen here, but with these guys lifting their water from 300 metres, that's got to lower the shallow aquifers around here. We had meetings in the hall, or not in the hall, but much in the club rooms here with the regional council people, and there was I think what do you call them, hydrologists. They did a survey of bores in the area, and I sent in my bore was dry. It was a shallow one, it was only down 26 feet. And he said, well, how did you know it was dry? And I said, well, it's 300 mils across. And I said, and it's 26 feet deep.
Yeah.
I said, when you look down and all you see is stones in the bottom, I said, it's dry. And I said, and I put that down to these guys sucking the water out.
Mm.
Oh no, he said, no, that wouldn't have any effect on it. And I said, well, you can't convince me that water doesn't run downhill.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
What you're saying is that we've got to have on surface water storage, don't we?
yes, we do. It's got to happen.
Yes.
And soon the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what's going to happen with the Rutanapa one now, but gosh, it's just got to happen. I think this government may be a little more agreeable to helping
leaning
do
towards
something.
yes.
Yes.
It just stands to. I mean, day after day we cross the Waipawa, the Tuki, and see this water disappearing out to sea.
Yeah.
It, yeah. Well, look, Robin, thanks so much for giving your time to discuss this.
That's all right, then. Yes.
Unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
Well, I probably could go on the
We don't want anything controversial.
No, not controversial, no, but one of the reasons why we don't get the decent flows, we're not getting good flows,
Yes.
is not because of irrigation or anything like that. There's no snow up on those mountains.
No. There was a glacier, for the want of a better word, that you'd see with snow in it right up until Christmas.
You could see snow, you could see snow on those mountains
Yes.
up until Christmas.
Yeah.
And that was what was feeding the rivers. But no, it's not there now.
And also the build-up of shingle, the water tending to flow under,
Yeah.
and giving the impression of the bed being shallow. But
Yes. Well, they are extracting quite a sizable amount of metal from the river.
yes, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. That snow you mentioned, you would know a lot more than what I would. But I remember growing up in Onga and seeing snow there regularly, and the snowstorms were not even.
Yes.
getting.
No, we're just not getting it. And if we do get a decent snowfall up there, within a week or so,
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. Okay, Robin, here we have the ram pump, as they were called, and this one operated out of the on Hamish Rose's property, and operated out of that part of the water race that went through his farm.
Yes, it did, Dennis. When after the races had closed down, it was Hamish who was a very old friend of mine. He said, "I've got this ram." He said that used to be in the race, and he said used to work and everything. He said, "Would the museum like it?" And I said, "Yeah, I dare say they would." So anyway, he said, "Well, come on up and we'll go and get it." Well, when we got there, there was only that sticking out. So it was, we had to dig right down until we exposed it all. And we came back next day, and it was sitting bolted to a concrete block. And of course, the bolts were pretty big and been there for damn near 100 years. So that took a fair bit of getting off, and then we had to cut that pipe off there, and that end was already exposed. So the idea of it was the flowing of the water coming in there.
So this was your intake?
That's the intake, and that would work the little flipper there.
Yep.
That would go bum, 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 and pump the water out here. And it raised the water up about 3 metres to a terrace on the top, and Hamish's dad was able to water a greater part of his property
Oh, okay.
with it. Yeah.
So it would pump up onto a terrace and then that water would go down to another part of
Well, it would
yeah,
pump, I think, into a tank.
into a tank.
Yeah, and then trough.
Yeah.
And then trough from there. Yeah.
Ingenious,
Yeah.
simple,
Yep.
basic method when you think about it.
Exactly. You just put it in the flow of the water, and then basically forget
Yeah.
about it.
And I believe there were bigger ones made that could lift it higher.
Oh, I would think
as
so.
well,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Well, this is the only one I have
Yeah.
ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, ingenious little method
Yeah.
of pumping water, used in the early 1900s.
Very little maintenance.
Yes, very little maintenance.
Um,
Yeah.
but I believe you can still get them, and they still.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think, yes.
Yeah.
I was looking at the little brass tap there. I dare say that would be just to bleed it.
Good to bleed it.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, ingenious little
Yeah.
thing. All done by air.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yes. In there. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Robin.
So that's now sitting in the local museum for anybody to have a look at. Yeah.